Welcome back, welcome back. As Secretary General of the UN from 1992 to 97, Boutros Ghali faced genocide in Rwanda, civil war in Angola, and the disintegration of the former Yugoslavia. Add to the mix the increasingly stormy relations between the US and the UN, and you see why it's been called one of the world's toughest jobs. Since retiring, he hasn't stopped. He now directs Egypt's National Council of Human Rights. But he's taken a moment to join us right now from Paris. Boutros, it's a great joy to have you with us. Tell me, how do the problems that the UN face today compare with the problems you faced 1992 to 1997? Is this a more difficult situation or a less difficult situation?
I believe that the United Nations, like the different other international organizations, are passing through a crisis. They must readapt themselves. They have been created more than 50 years ago, in 1945, after the end of World War II. Today we have living a new period, which is related to the end of the Cold War, number one, to the technological revolution, number two, and to the presence of more than 180 states. When the United Nations was created, there were only 50 states. Then you have another element which is new also, which is the presence of the non-state actors, the non-governmental organization, the different religious movements. So we need a drastic change of the international organization. And the problem is not the change of the Security Council to add few new members or to give the right of veto to, or to limit the use of the right of veto. The problem is to must create a new international organization or new international organizations with taking in consideration the drastic change which happened in the international society.
When you talk about the third generation of the UN, I mean, is the UN in danger of being out of date at the moment?
I believe that the reform may help, but we need the drastic change. The reform will not be able to, a little reform will not be able to cope with the new situation. We are living a new situation which is completely different than the situation which was existing in 1945. So we need a new organization. I know it will not be easy to obtain this drastic change, but we must work from now on until we will be able to create this new international organization. Meanwhile, the United Nations can continue to do its work, but it will be limited. It will be limited because of the structure, because of the fact that still now the United Nations is not a democratic institution. In the case that we will obtain the participation of the non-state actors, this will help the democratization of the United Nations.
How do you see the situation in the Middle East at the moment?
I believe that
Israel and Palestine.
I believe that the situation will not be solved in the next few years because we have two governments among the Palestinians, a government in Gaza and another government in the West Bank. The Israeli government, the Israeli coalition is a weak coalition. Thus, the two protagonists of this dispute, both of them are weak. And they will not be able to do a real change in the situation. Furthermore, the United States will have many other problems, and among them the international crisis. So I don't believe that we will have a solution of the problem for the next few years. In the next few years, then you will have a change. It will be a demographic change. You will have more Palestinians inside Israel. You will have more Palestinians around Israel. So here it will be a demographic change which may help us to find a political solution to the problem.
What about Afghanistan, Boutros? Do you think the United States and Britain are doing the right thing in Afghanistan, or would you like to see the foreign coalition troops withdrawn from Afghanistan?
I believe that the problem is how this withdrawal will happen and what will be the reaction of the different countries involved in this process. But certainly the solution is not a military solution. The solution will be a political one. And again, we have the precedent. The precedent is, look what happened in Iraq today, or what happened a few years ago in Vietnam.
And in terms of Iraq, I mean, do you look back on the Iraq war now as a big mistake in your idea to start it?
Certainly, yes. I believe it was a big mistake, and I believe that all of us will pay the price of this mistake. And the situation is Iraq today. I will say that the composition of the whole administration, the number of people who have been killed, represent a real catastrophe for not only the Middle East, but for the international society.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sir David.
Boutros Ghali there. It's been a tough summer this year for Barack Obama. After a month of heated and occasionally violent debate on healthcare reform in the US, the president's approval ratings are at their lowest level of his presidency. Mind you, they started very high. That's not to mention ongoing problems, though, with the economy and an increasingly tricky war in Afghanistan. So is President Obama's honeymoon, as the column writers say, finally over? Joining me is Washington insider and author of Renegade, The Making of Barack Obama, Richard Wolffe. Welcome.
Thank you.
And former State Department official, welcome back to Colleen Graffy. Let's take the phrase, Colleen, straight away, the phrase, cliche almost, but is the honeymoon for Barack Obama over?
Well, I think we need to split it into the two audiences. One is global and one is American.
Right.
I think on the global level, the honeymoon is not over. He's articulate, he's charming, he's an attractive individual. For the United States, his popularity is still there. He's a historic figure, and Americans are rightly proud that he was elected president. However, the honeymoon is over. His poll ratings are slipping in the United States.
We're talking about 53%, the last one I saw, having started in the...
Once it gets right around the 50 margin, it's not good. He's in dangerous territory, and it's mainly because of the policies on health reform. And it's being linked to him, Obamacare, and it's also being sort of outsourced to the Democrats in Congress, Nancy Pelosi, with very low poll ratings, and with Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. So healthcare is what is bringing him down. How he's going to come back from that, we'll wait and see after this next speech coming up.
Right, just coming up soon, yes. What about that, Richard? The honeymoon abroad and the honeymoon at home?
Well, I agree that the numbers have been sliding for him. That's always makes the White House uncomfortable. Absolutely. The question, as you raised in the sort of intro there, is how stratospherically high they were to begin with. And he's really come back to where he was around the time of the election.
Yes,
After the election,
February it was 76%.
Yes, around the time of the inauguration, Americans, quite rightly I think, felt very good about themselves and very good about this historic development, and those numbers were exceptionally high. So he's come back down to as Colleen says, a dangerous territory, but actually still pretty positive. Especially, actually, I don't think it's really healthcare that is the problem, and it has been a difficult thing over the summer, but the real problem is the economy. This is still the worst economy for many, many generations. And so a president normally gets beaten up for this kind of thing. A public mood, as we've seen with healthcare, but also about so many other issues, is difficult. They don't like politicians in general. So to have a president at 50% on one side, yes, glass half empty. On the other side, well, he's got positive numbers. There are no other politicians, I would say there are very few in the world, but there are no other politicians in America who could endure this kind of beating on the economy on so many other fronts and still be in anything like positive territory.
But I mean, can he, in that case, I mean, if the economy is a key factor which I'm sure it is in one sense, then that's something he's not going to be able to turn around his rating on the economy for 4 years or something.
Well, I'm not sure. If it's 4 years, then he's not going to get re-elected. If it's a year, then he's going to be in this crunch time just before the midterm elections. So is it 6 months? Is it 9 months? And the question isn't about the statistics. It's do people feel that the economy is getting better, especially about jobs. So that's the difficult calculation for them.
But the other aspect is his disapproval rating is going up. So that's also dangerous. It's not just that the approval is going down, but the specific disapproval is going up. And he's really only 1 point ahead of where Bush was when he first started his first term, so before 9/11. So you would think with his popularity that it would be much, much higher at this stage.
The healthcare business is fascinating too, because that has been violent pictures in the news magazines and so on of people at these rallies and so on. And so many people get bewildered by that. Here's a plan for health reform where all those people in America who don't have health insurance are going to get it. And why are they so angry at getting free health insurance?
Well, because 9 out of 10 of Americans feel okay with their health insurance. The majority have health insurance and they're satisfied with it. There's a number that don't have it, but the promise in going into the election was that this wasn't going to be government-sponsored like the NHS care from the government. And now they see that that's shifting and people are alarmed by this. They didn't mind making sure that there's health care for those that currently don't have health care, but the ones that already do and are happy with it are worried that that will disappear once it is a government-only national health service.
And what about the situation, though, with the Republican Party at the moment? While they've got a little bit of encouragement from 76% approval coming down to 53% approval, there's no real sign of their finding a way ahead now, or finding a crown prince even.
Yeah. I think they're okay with that. I think that the Republican Party needs time to regroup. They're not anxious to try and identify a leader because that will just have someone for the Democrats to focus on. So it's more important to sort of say this health care, Obamacare, is a problem. The American people are not behind it, and how that's going to be sorted after the town halls you've described that were so acrimonious, it's going to be a tough recovery.
Can he make it, do you think, to win the next election?
Well, I do think the economy is going to be key, but look, healthcare is something that the political junkies all are fascinated by. Frankly, nobody really understands what's in or out of the legislation. In the end, a bill will emerge. The White House will declare victory, no matter how incremental the thing is, and people will go back to their lives and say, well, isn't that all fine and dandy? And they'll worry about their jobs again. So that's going to be key. He will... It's fine strategy for the Republicans not to have someone to beat up, to have the other side beat up. But Obama still controls the debate. He is still the person people focus on for their attention. He's a compelling figure. And I'm not sure that the healthcare debate has been so disruptive that people are going to go back to their initial judgment and say, you know what, we're not going to give you another chance. Not just yet. Not just yet.
But you've put your finger on it. People are concerned that Obama is more concerned about the aesthetics of the policy rather than the content of the policy. And to just have anything that comes out with the name healthcare bill on it is not going to be enough.
Thank you both very much. Who's right then? The verdict is yours. Well, not the verdict is the American electorate's, really, isn't it? Rather than us. But anyway, how time flies. I'm afraid that all we've got time for this week is complete. My thanks to all my guests. Do join us again in 7 days' time for another Frost Over the World.